On today's show, aren't you so glad Dylan Cease is a San Diego Padre? Recapping the first game in a 4-game set against the Rockies, including some Jurickson Profar revenge, dare I say. And, of course, Dylan Cease absolutely dealing arguably the best single start by any Padres pitcher this year. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for April 23rd, a Tuesday, 2024. As always, I am your host with sometimes, occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You may be familiar with my baseball-related work over at Just Baseball, where I write about not just the Padres, but general baseball stuff in general, and I also host a show on general fun baseball culture stuff called Baseball vs. the World that you could check out. But most importantly, you can check me out on Twitter at Javipeno, Javiiipeno, and be sure to check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast from, including YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, we are recapping the first game in this 4-game set between the Padres and the Rockies, a team that, and this will become relevant later, I almost sent off a tweet in the middle of this game that I would have regretted. Let me tell you, I think everyone here maybe that's listening has been there. When you post what you shouldn't post, you know what I mean? Everyone's kind of been there before, but the Rockies are a team that the Padres struggle to face sometimes. In fact, a lot. You know, over these past few years, they're the one team that has been able to make the Rockies at least look like legible and like a team that's a major league team is the San Diego Padres. And I think that this Rockies team is better than previous Rockies teams, but even still, they struggle against them. And you saw a little bit of that last night. Though, I just want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it. I have a competitive side sometimes, and Monopoly Go helps satiate my bloodlust. Ladies and gentlemen, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Wow. Just phenomenal stuff last night from one Sir Dylan Cease. Arguably the best start that any Padres pitcher has had this year. I'd say the only other one would be Michael King from the other day when he was just absolutely dealing. I think that was Friday. Was it Friday that Michael King was dealing? No. Was it Friday? Wednesday? Was it Wednesday? What was? Yeah, it was Wednesday when King went 7 2/3, only gave up 1 run and struck out 10. Last night, though, was phenomenal. And don't get me wrong, I know that the Rockies aren't like an exceptional team, but to me, they're one of the rare teams where just because they're not great, I just think that the Coors Field effect is so strong that even if you are pitching against a somewhat weak lineup there, I still think it is impressive no matter who the pitcher is. So you'll be able to go out there and really like dominate because you usually get shootouts when you're at Coors. And last night was not a shootout. Now we'll see if we get some as time goes on. And again, like I said at the top of this episode, the Rockies for some reason turn into, you know, a playoff team for some reason, but only specifically against the Padres. But Dylan Cease last night, 7 innings, only 1 earned run on 1 hit, 0 walks, and 8 strikeouts. The walks is especially impressive. Cease's ERA on the season is now 1.82, which for those curious would put him about, let's see here, it would put him about as the 13th best ERA by any starting pitcher this year, and there are some names above him that I think will go down. For example, like I don't think that Ranger Suarez will keep this up. I don't think someone like Tanner Huck is necessarily going to keep this apart. Cutter Crawford of the Red Sox, you know, Jose Barrios, I don't think, even though he's Puerto Rican, I love him. Tyler Anderson. So I think he's going to be a little bit even higher and better than those players by a lot of estimations. I think people think they're better, but he certainly has the best strikeout rate out of basically any starter outside Reed Detmers and Freddie Peralta. Those are the only guys that could touch him in terms of strikeout rate and the low ERA. He's been phenomenal. And in this game specifically, his slider was all but untouchable. It really was. I thought that he looked so good in this game. 10 whiffs on 27 swings for the slider. He was getting them to swing outside. He was getting them to swing outside on his knuckle curve a couple times as well. And here's the thing. Outside zone contact percentage, no one was hitting his 4-seam fastball or his knuckle curve or his sweeper, and he was getting them to chase just a tiny bit, and that made up for things, but he looked excellent, and also no walks. And look, I don't want to do the I told you so thing, But I'm going to do a little bit of the I told you so thing anyway. 1.82 ERA on the season so far. Also, a strikeout rate that is basically the same as it has been as ever. In fact, this year, 31.3% strikeout rate and a 9.8% walk rate. So he's declined slightly in the walk rate, but it's still, he does walk a decent amount of batters, which is why he's gotten Blake Snell comparisons. And for the I told you so crowd that I'm referring to the people who for some reason liked messaging me last week about how Blake Snell is so much better than Dylan Cease. He won a Cy Young and all this stuff. Look, Cy Youngs can be he's great, don't get me wrong, but there's been some, Robbie Ray won a Cy Young. Do we think that Robbie Ray's the best pitcher in baseball when healthy? No, exactly. So that's my thing. Dylan Cease, though, has returned a little bit. He's shown some signs of returning to that Cy Young form that you saw him in 2022 when he literally finished second. He had a 2.2 ERA that year and 30.4 strikeout percentage. Right that year. This year he's at 31.3, which is an increase by 4%, by the way, from last year. And also, his hard hit rate has gone down a little bit. Now, he's not a guy that I'm worried about when the hard hit rate stuff comes up, because that's what's going to happen with a pitcher like him. When you make contact, if you make contact, that's what's going to happen. But he makes up for it by the fact that you're barely going to be able to hit his pitches. He's going to get a lot of strikeouts. And hopefully, as long as he keeps the walk rate somewhat in check every now and then, he's going to be great. And I don't want to hear about the Savant sliders. I think that gets overused by baseball fans sometimes. But even the Savant sliders look great. Lots of red. And yes, the blue in the barrel rate, in the average exit velocity. But that's okay, because you know who else has had numbers like that in the prime of their career? Our buddy Yu Darvish. You know what I mean? Some of these guys, when they're going for those strikeouts, can give up some really hard contact. Don't get me wrong. Especially with C, sometimes with the knuckle curve or when the fastball's a little bit too straight. But for the most part, he just nailed it, man. He was awesome last night. And it was scary that there was at one point, we were like, are the Padres going to waste the second best starting pitching start by their pitching this year? You had Michael King last week where you lost 1-0 to the Brewers. And this game for a long time is 1-1 and 1-0 in favor of the Padres originally. But it was really nerve-wracking. It was what the heck is going on here? And we're going to talk a little bit about those specifics in just a second, guys. And probably talk a little bit more about Cease. Maybe just a little bit. Maybe. What do you think? What do you think we should do? I don't know. But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk to you about our good friends over at Game Time, folks. And maybe you want to catch that. Maybe you saw the end of that Nuggets-Lakers game and you said, oh, hot daddy-o, I need to get me to LA because I need to see the next game in this series that has been excellent. Or maybe you saw the end of the Knicks game. Wow, that was crazy. And now you want to go to Philly for all the bonkers fans out there. Just bonkers New York and bonkers Philly fans. That only ever produces classics. You know what I mean? But Game Time is the place to go, guys, for all your tickets and whatnot. You've got NHL playoffs. You've got MLB regular season, NBA playoffs. And they are here to help pick out any specific games or matchups that you'd love to attend. Talk about any good deals. You guys love good deals? Well, boom. I actually got Yankee tickets a couple weeks ago, and they were really cheap, and it was awesome. And they have all these flash deals and zone deals. They show you the pictures from the seats. It's really an all-encompassing. Last week we had Pete Fairbanks say that all-encompassing levels of suck. No, that's not what this is. Game Time is all-encompassing levels of gratitude and awesomeness. Let me tell you, when it comes to all your pictures, your deals. And what I like is it's not just sports, concerts, comedy, theater. They got you covered for all sorts of tickets that you might be interested in. So go check that out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and you redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with Game Time. But folks, that's not all. That's not all. And we're going to shift to something a little tiny bit more serious, dare I say. And that is our good folks and friends over at Policy Genius. It's the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. And look, man, it's super convenient. They have all these award-winning agents that are going to help you out and talk you through the process, especially if you're like me and you're a little bit, it's daunting. It can be quite daunting. Well, Policy Genius has a bunch of people to help you out there. You can easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks and find your lowest price. It's really great. It's really great. We love Policy Genius. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to Policy Genius, spelled exactly how you think, POILICYGENIUS.com/ and here's the important part, Locked On MLB, of course, because it's baseball, duh. This is a baseball podcast. Locked On MLB, or you can check out the link in the description and get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/locked on. Go check it out. And just like that, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Locked On Padres podcast. Remember, you can get the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, whatever app, and you can check out the YouTube as well. My apologies that for a second before the ad, you guys saw my water bottle. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit, so my apologies for the commenters who brought that up. Back to the game. Back to the game. So the Padres in this one, there's not too much that happens, really. Like I said, this was kind of like a shaky game for the majority of it. The Padres were winning 1-0 in the top of the third thanks to a Jurickson Profar single. I will say that there was like a lot of like hits in this game. And don't get me wrong, I understand that this is like TV broadcast and this happens sometimes. But there was a lot where I was like, dang, like that wasn't a hit. And the Padres did get a little bit unlucky with some hits in this game, particularly if you look at average exit velocity. Jake Cronenworth had the third hardest hit ball of the game, 710 batting average, but great defensive player by the Rockies outfield. They get that one out. Xander Bogaerts, he had a ground out with an expected batting average of 510. You had Ha-Seong Kim grounding into a double play with runners on, I believe it was it first and second? I forgot what the situation was. I'm going to actually look this up because I'm driving myself insane. Yes, it was Jurickson Profar walk. That's what it was. And then Profar grounded into a double play. But thankfully, one thing that you've seen this year, and by the way, expected batting average of 570 on that Ha-Seong Kim ground out. That one thing that you saw in this game and one thing that you didn't see with the Padres all last year, what you've seen a little bit more this year is a little bit more fight. While yes, there's 2 outs there, brutal double play, but because thanks to a great defensive play by the Rockies. Again, I don't know why they become, now again, they're a little bit better this year, but I'm just saying, like, they love playing the Padres. Go look up CJ Cron's career stats against the Padres versus everyone else. And then you get Luis Campusano, who, by the way, has a good game. 2 doubles in this one, 2 for 4. That was really cool. It's nice that it looks like he's heating back up again. He's getting better at the plate. And I like that recently he drew a couple more walks. So some good signs. But more importantly, I'm worried about the defense. But anyway, he hits into the double after the double play, which he kind of pushed it, by the way. I thought he might have been out, but he gets another double. And then Tyler Wade. Oh my gosh. It's like they're doing this just to annoy me. But he comes through. He pinch hits for Eggy Rosario and gets a single, allowing Luis Campusano to score the go-ahead run. And then Jackson Merrill gets a single, allowing Tyler Wade to score. Again, I want to reiterate, I am not saying Tyler Wade has no place on this team. I'm saying, why does he get the start every single day? And also, more importantly, dare I say, is why are you calling up Graham Pauley if you have no intention to actually give him consistent playing time? And then when he comes in and does bad, because he gets a start once every 8 days, because you have to start the guy with a career 593 OPS. And then everyone's in my comments being like, well, he has to produce. Guys, we literally went through this with Luis Campusano already. We literally went through this where it was like, why is Austin Nola, who's not good, doing this? And I talked about yesterday where, like, if we had Heimer Candelario who was struggling, I'd be like, okay, well, that guy's been an above average at bat, and especially was an above average bat last year. That's why he was a trade deadline candidate, right? Even if he's not an all-star, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But Tyler Wade, literally highest WRC plus he's ever had was 95, which shows you that even though he's had a couple slash lines before, doesn't hit for power, might have even got lucky a couple times on the Yankees. I just don't understand it. And we will see what keeps happening there. But Tyler Wade, almost like he was just trying to mess with me. And I want to give a shout out to me real quick. I almost tweeted, and for people who might follow me on Twitter, which you should, at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO, I tweeted, what was it that I said? I said basically like, the Rockies are so good at like only looking good against us, basically. The Rockies turning into a playoff team specifically and only when playing the Padres will be studied in history classes for decades to come, is what I tweeted. But then I deleted it because my thing was, wait a minute, because I think I almost tweeted it after the double play. I think after Ha-Seong Kim's grounds his double play, where they make such a great defensive play, that's what spawned the tweet. And I deleted because I was like, you know what? Wait. Let me just wait for the inning to finish first. You know what I mean? Because you never know. And I don't want this all to end and then me look like a total doofus for jumping ship too quickly. Usually if I'm jumping ship too quickly with my tweets, it's mostly a meme and I'm mostly just messing around. But that's what happens. And look what happens. They end up scoring and then going ahead. And it was really great. It's just nice to see that this team has a little bit more fight than they did last year. I know that this weekend's series against the Blue Jays was disappointing, but it just felt to me like the Padres just hit a weird like slump for a little bit rather than them not being good. I think they have to see if they can play better against the Rockies for sure. I don't know their total record against them these last few years, but considering I'd say it's like the Rockies, the A's, the Marlins to an extent. Not even this year, but like years before, but mostly Rockies, A's, Nationals. Who's another good example? The Royals at some point, the Angels. Like that's what tier the Rockies have been in over these last few years, and the fact that they don't really like dominate them and or just have like an above, maybe they win 70% of the time, has been really impressive. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but basically aside from that 2020 season, the Padres have been remarkably bad at playing against the Rockies. Like, it just feels like they're always getting beat. But I could be wrong. Maybe they were better against them last year. But anyway, so I ended up not tweeting that, and it was great. Now, I will say, not great that I was nervous the entire time. I do want to give a shout out to Enyel De Los Santos or Enyel De Los Santos or Angel De Los Santos. I'm not totally familiar with how you pronounce it exactly, so my apologies. I just saw a tweet the other day about this. But Santos, he's been so awesome, and in my opinion, the most underrated Padre this year. 0.84 ERA on the season. Yesterday gives up one hit, but strands the rest of the runners, 3 strikeouts. He's been looking awesome, and I really do think, now don't get me wrong, I think at this point people know how I feel about AJ Preller, but he's been this was such a great move. Yuki Matsui too. I really think that Preller and company deserve credit for the fact that they said, we're going to save some money, but we did replace it with some good stuff, right? You got Dylan Cease, you got Michael King, and Randy Vasquez and Johnny Breeder are at least interesting depth options. I know the latter has been terrible so far. I'm just saying at least you're not counting on some old washed up player, which is what's happened before with, as I've mentioned time and time again, the Jake Arrieta, Vincent Velasquez's of a world where like they've kind of been proven that they're kind of out right now. So that's nice. And then they were able to take the money that they had from Scott Barlow, who, by the way, I don't think has been great for Cleveland. If I'm not mistaken, all the Cleveland's 16-6 somehow, which is just maddening because like they have Tristan McKenzie is not pitching well at all. And then Shade Bieber is out for the season with Tommy John, but apparently Carlos Carrasco is okay again. It's just a frustrating team. But anyway, for a lot of different reasons. But Scott Barlow, he's got a 4.35 ERA this year. He's looked good at times, but he hasn't been amazing, and he's had a couple blow-ups, while Santos has not, and he costs infinitely less money, and you were able to use that money for guys like Wandy Peralta, Woo Sat-go, and Yuki Matsui. And that's one of the reasons the Padres have been so good this year, is especially their bullpen. Their starting pitching has been their starting pitching has been really hit or miss this year, where you have Darvish, who'd been a little bit up and down, but then he just headed to the IL. Hopefully it shouldn't be too long. And Joe Musgrove has a really, really high ERA at 5.74. Hopefully he can start getting things going. And then you have Michael King, who's got a 3.3, but it hasn't felt like it oftentimes this year. You know what I mean? Aside from that last start, he's been a little bit shaky, although I do think he's going to get better. The bullpen has been such a big part for this, for the Padres, and they deserve so much credit. Cosgrove, I understand he's a 10.38. He's just had 2 disastrous blowups, but I still think he can be an effective reliever. Just got to get him into the swing of things. And not to mention, by the way, that the Padres may get some reinforcements at some point. Whether it be some lower tier level, relief pitchers. You just saw, Randy Vasquez got called up and he actually wasn't that bad in Friday's game. Or you have someone like, say, Jeremiah Estrada, who's touching like 98 miles per hour with that fastball. So like he's looked pretty tough too. So you might get even more reinforcements. That's the big thing about the Padres this year. I understand that they lost their stars. I understand. That is the biggest thing that happened this offseason. Soto, Snell, Hader. But in my opinion, it is a lot easier to replace the latter two. And if they have the runners in scoring position thing go back up their way, which it has so far this year, I think that they just have more reinforcements, more potential help in a lot of positions. There's a little bit more unknown about this Padres team, from the Jackson Merrills to maybe eventually Graham Pauley, and then you have Robbie Snelling down the line. Maybe he comes up if they don't like how Vasquez and Brito or whoever they set on the fifth, Matt Waldron, whatever. Then you have Robbie Snelling that could come in. So it's been really cool. All in all, I think this Padres team has been really solid. 13-12, don't get me wrong, but hey, the Dodgers are 13-11. Like, no one has really broken out in this division. And like I said before, like, Cleveland's just annoying. I don't know why they have like one hit per game and that they're able to win all these games. So that's frustrating. But with the Padres, give it a little bit of time. I know that there hasn't been enough consistency, and I'd really like them to win 4 games in a row to get that monkey off their back that they had last year, where they didn't win 4 in a row until September, which is like really impressive, because even some of the mediocre type of teams, like I'm pretty sure even the Mets at one point last year had 4 wins in a row. That was really frustrating. I also want to give a shout out to the end of this game. While I am praising the bullpen, Robert Suarez did make me nervous. He's not like an ace closer, in my opinion, but he has times where he flirts with it. And bottom line is he hasn't really blown anything for the Padres too much so far this year. 0.84 ERA on the year. He does give up 2 hits, no strikeouts, but in game-ending double play, and I have to tell you, I was ready. I was like, yep, this is it. They're absolutely not going to be great. This is going to be one of those situations where the Padres lose on a walk-off. It's happened before. It happened recently, right? And remember the years when, who was it that hit the walk-off against them? I'm blanking on who it was that hit it. I imagine it was CJ Cron. I'm just going to assume it was CJ Cron over the years. And I was like, oh God, first and third, what's going to happen here? And they get a double play. And by the way, great throw from Xander Bogaerts. Like, truly great throw, turning that double play, moving to his side, having to get out of the way of the runner. Like, really impressive. If you go by defensive statistics, he hasn't been that bad. His arm strength isn't great, but in my opinion, that's something that's more conducive to second base. I think that in theory, Bogaerts can be a really good defensive second baseman. I do. Because I think that it's more conducive to the fact that he doesn't have the best arm strength in the world, right? He doesn't have the best arm strength. And most importantly, though, he doesn't have as much experience there, right? He doesn't have as much experience, and I do think he can be better at second base, and that Ha-Seong Kim's a better shortstop. He has better arm strength, so I do think he can get better. The only thing with Bogaerts is just like he learns so late that he's kind of learning on the fly. But hey, he's at least 1 out above average, 77th percentile in that regard, so that's kind of cool. So shouts to Bogaerts. Hopefully he can get better as a whole. He's showing some signs of heating up. Maybe last night, not so much, though. He's officially below the Mendoza line at 196 on the season, draws a walk and gets a stolen base. But all in all, we're still hoping that, in Coors Field, can that help him out? Maybe. We'll have to see. But Xander Bogaerts still rough on the season, but he does deserve credit for that play. Yeah, that's basically it for the game recap, guys. Before we finish out this podcast, though, I want to take a second to talk to you about what I talked to you about at the beginning of this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Monopoly Go experience. Folks, here's the thing. Look, I could be a little competitive sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. I don't know if you guys think that's true. Maybe you don't know me as much, but I get competitive, man. When I'm playing my games on my phone, when I'm just playing some outside hoops, maybe whatever, like I could be a little bit competitive whenever I'm playing, ping pong, whatever it is. And Monopoly Go always satiates the urge. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a crazy, crazy awesome twist on the classic Monopoly that you know and love. When you, sorry, I just had that like weird throat hiccup thing or whatever. But you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. And what I love is you can be disrespectful in Monopoly. You know what I mean? Now you got to be careful, but with Monopoly Go, what I love is you don't have to worry about all that stuff. You can just be disrespectful 24/7. It's like when you play Settlers of Catan and then you just start like being really petty with your friends and then they hate you by the end. You kind of do that here. You can charge them rent on all of your iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. And my favorite is you could just destroy their properties with a wrecking ball. I really love that. I love little things like that, man. So thank you, Monopoly Go, just messing with my friends. And leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. I may not be on the top leaderboards, but you might someday. It's not just that. You could also team up, though, with your friends and people all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. And just like that, we are back here in the waning moments of Locked On Padres podcast, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. Because what a game. What a game. Seriously, what a game. Absolutely what a game for the Padres just to pull that one out. Search deep. Hopefully, the rest of the series, hopefully it goes well. All games that they should win. It's one of those series where this is like can the Padres really activate themselves? Can they start getting on a roll again, the same way they were before that Blue Jays series? Because I really do think that I think they can. You're in Colorado. You should have some more offense than what you had last night. And I think that they will. I really do. This is not a good team, and you should win at the minimum 3 out of 4. I really do believe that this is the team that you have to beat. You have to be better, and you have to step up more with the offense. But I will say, did get a little bit unlucky. And there were hits where I was like, dang, I know that the exit velocity and all that stuff wasn't great on all of them, but Jake Cronenworth had some hard hit balls that I was like, dang, I'm surprised that didn't leave the infield or whatever. It looked like a lot of Padres players hit the ball better, and it just didn't go. Tatis had a couple, right? He had a fly out that was actually deemed that it would have been a home run in 14 out of 30 ballparks, which isn't an overwhelming number, but it's just throwing it out there that Tatis did look like he was close to a couple shots, right? This is what happens every now and then. In fairness, we did get lucky too. Shan Bouchard hit a double that bounced off the wall, and it would have been a home run in 24 out of 30 ballparks. But still, and then Tatis actually, he hit a triple. I forgot about this. Tatis hit a triple too, 26 out of 30 ballparks home run. So I just want to say, yes, it was low scoring offense. The Padres need to be better. I do think there was a little bit of luck involved. So hopefully they go a little bit more nuclear tonight when they face, let's see, who's it going to be for the Rockies? Ryan Feltner. So hopefully they can do there. And I'm excited to see what Michael King does. Hopefully he just doesn't get lit up, but I'm a little bit nervous there. I want to just give a shout, though, to the general stats for the Padres so far on the season for a little bit of an update. I haven't done this so far this year. In batting average, they are 9th. In on-base percentage, they are 6th. In runs scored, they are 6th. In home runs, they are 8th. In slugging percentage, they are 8th. In ERA, they are 10th, which is greatly helped by the fact that you've had Dylan Cease do a lot better, and the fact that Michael King has had some of his peripherals not kick in fully yet, and they might never, by the way. I'm just saying for those first 3 starts, I think he was getting a little bit lucky. All the data on that wasn't great. But nonetheless, he's been turning around, hopefully, and then you've got the bullpen. Batting average against, they're 12th, and walks plus hits per inning pitched, they are 9th. So all those stats, a lot of those important stats, they are no worse than 12th in all of those. And that was something that didn't happen at all with the team last year. Where basically last year, they were the entire way through just pitching, and that was all that they had, right? And this year, it's really nice to see both. And I do think that what has helped tremendously has been not just that Tatis is back, right? Not just that. It's not just that you have, your MVP contender who looks like he's back to his MVP ways. It's not just that. It's also that Jackson Merrill has been a godsend. And then you've also gotten a lot from Jake Cronenworth. And I don't think that what those two are doing has been lucky. At least that's not what the data shows, and that's not what my eye test has shown. And also, they're the type of... Now, don't get me wrong. With Merrill, it wouldn't surprise. It won't surprise me if he does go down a little bit. He is a rookie. Eventually, major league pitchers are going to figure out something and going to figure out what to do against a player like him. But for me, I just love what we've seen here. Luis Campusano. Yes, the defense is bad, but man, he can hit. And he went through a little bit of a slump there, right? He did go through a little bit of a slump, but he can do better. I don't think he's like a home run catcher, which is if you're going to have it seems like in Major League Baseball, aside from Adley Rutschman and Will Smith, those type of guys, it seems like what teams want is if you're a catcher that can hit 20 home runs a year and play awesome defense, we don't care about your on-base and batting average skills. That's what it seems like. I think a good example of this is Cal Raleigh of the Seattle Mariners, where he's a top 5-ish catcher who just will hit 25 home runs and play great defense, and that's it. You know what I mean? And I know that's not as exciting as the consistency of the base hits, but Luis Campusano is rare in that form, where I don't think he's necessarily going to hit for a lot of power in the home run sense, but he's going to keep getting on base. Hopefully he increases the walk rate, and hopefully he stops swinging at literally everything, and maybe he gets a little bit better behind the plate, but we'll see. Bottom line is, I think they've been great. The last thing, a little bit of news, Manny Machado, I didn't talk about him, placed on paternity leave, the paternity list, I should say. First of all, congrats to the Machados, of course, obviously. Congrats to him. I just want to talk in the baseball sense really quickly. And also maybe the days off and maybe dad power will be, something that will help Machado out. We'll have to see, right? Like, I can't wait to see how that all transpires. That's always a fun, like, sports internet fan thing when they talk about dad power, like Bryce Harper when he went absolutely nuclear in the playoffs. And by the way, I think Bryce Harper was just placed on a paternity list too. So it's just funny that both of them at the same time, the big free agents who entered the same free agency class together, all that stuff, Boris, blah, 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 like that they're entering at the same time. So that's those two. But I think this gives the Padres an opportunity to really experiment and try out some new players. I want to see Graham Pauley starting. I want to see Eggy Rosario starting. Maybe you want to put Eggy Rosario as the DH. That way you can swap him out. Maybe you want Graham Pauley as the DH, right? I don't know, which either way, because Eggy Rosario has had a couple like decent plays, by the way, defensively this season. I will say that not so much for Graham Pauley. He's made a couple mistakes, but I just want to throw it out there that I hope that they can take advantage of this. By the way, yeah, Eggy Rosario, just saying, as above average, he's 86th percentile right now. So I want to see those guys hit more. And don't get me wrong, I understand that they got the starts. Eggy Rosario did get a start in this game. And he goes 1 for 3, by the way. He goes 1 for 3. Like, give him a chance. And I was annoyed by the Tyler Wade pinch hit, but he did come through. He did come through with it, and it wasn't even a lucky single. But I just want to say, enough with Tyler Wade. Let's give Graham Pauley another shot. If you don't, then send him down. What are we doing here? So hopefully he's in the lineup today in some fashion. I really do think that he deserves a shot, especially since Machado's not going to be gone forever. And I've discussed this before. Forget the paternity list. He's also not going to be at DH forever. Eventually he's going to have third base locked down. And that's making me wonder, like, well, let's see what we've got from Eggy. I understand that his splits are bad, but he's still hitting 281. Like, give him a second. Just try it. Let's just try seeing what happens when the guy that you don't know for sure what they are. And I don't want to hear it from any commenters or whatever about, well, this guy is this and that. Yeah, well, I know what Tyler Wade is. We literally have 6 years of evidence. We don't know 100%. I don't care. You're telling me we know exactly what Eggy Rosario and Graham Pauley are going to be because they've looked bad in certain things in 2 weeks of playing time? Come on. Come on, guys. That to me is ridiculous. I'm saying this because I've gotten comments and DMs being like, "Hey, like, well, Paulie hasn't done anything." I'm like, "Yeah, but neither has Tyler Wade, and he's never done anything." That's what's driving me insane. Let's go with an upside play, especially while Manny is out and not playing third base. Hopefully, with the paternity leave and the being out from third base while he recovers, we'll see some more opportunities. But granted, while it is a we've won but at what cost type of meme with Tyler Wade having that clutch single last night, I still think, please give those guys a start. Don't use this Tyler Wade one hit, the one time he's literally shown up offensively in the last 2 weeks, last week and a half maybe. Don't use that as a reason to just start him for 8 straight games. Please, why are we doing this? Guys, we did it with Luis Campusano. Remember how I was right about that? It's going to end up being right about this. It's going to. But with that all being said, that about does it for today's edition of the Locked On Padres podcast. Guys, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Very excited for the rest of the series. Hopefully the Padres offense really kicks up and they can just shove the Rockies down. Let's get rid of this another monkey on our back, our weirdness with playing the Rockies. Hopefully they can do that. Tomorrow's episode, we're going to be doing a crossover with my buddy Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies, not just previewing and discussing biggest storylines of the rest of the series. We'll be recapping tonight's game as well. So it'll be like a crossover preview hybrid. You know what I mean? So that'll be a lot of fun. Also planning this week to talk with Aram Layton about Jackson Merrill, Graham Pauley, Adam Mazer, and Robbie Snelling, a little bit of a prospect check-in. And then lastly, maybe a little bit of a crossover preview for this Friday series against Philadelphia. The crazy Philadelphia Phillies. That could be a lot of fun. So stay locked in, stay subscribed. And until next time, stay safe. And of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.